Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. What's up, guys? Welcome back, and we're getting ready to do, yes, another countdown. That's right, everybody. This week's countdown consists of 11 books altogether. One book I did not get a chance to read, unfortunately, just because of time, was Wolverine and the X-Men. I went to MegaCon this past Sunday, and I kind of fell behind with everything. So if this is the only time right now that I have to get this countdown up, so trying to get it up before I have to go back to work. So again, 11 comics, no digital, all physical copy. One I can't show because I kind of got rid of, and I did an in-depth review on it if you want to see it. And that is number 11. And number 11 was Iron Man, issue 23.1. Yeah, that's right, guys. That book is just a mess right now. I am sorry. No offense, really, honestly. You know, people say, Mike, why did you rip up the book? It just means that I'm not going to get another one, and I'm not going to look at that trash anymore. I give away a lot of books to people that need it, or friends, or things like that, but that book is just a mess right now, and it really was out of frustration. Sometimes when I get frustrated with books when they're so bad, it drives me crazy, because I feel like they're in for to make a quick dollar or whatever it is, but that book is nuts. I mean, you got Mandarin rings flying around. It's like a cheap knockoff off of Green Lantern. There was this conductor that was conducting that Iron Man was fighting, and then it goes into this dark magic elf, and it was just like all kinds of stuff going on. I have no idea what the hell is it about. You know, yes, I haven't read it in a while, but it was supposedly supposed to be a 23.1. A point one means a jumping on point for readers. And you know what? I was confused when I read that book. I may have been a little slow. I may be a little stupid. And, who knows? But for whatever reason, I don't want to read that book right now. And I think what that book needs, in my opinion, is just a new writer. I really do, to get Tony Stark back to what he's best at doing, being the character that he is. Never mind this adopted brother. He's adopted, and he's got these secret parents, and he has this secret brother, and all this other nonsense. Don't need any of that stuff. So that book got like a 1 star for me. All right, moving forward, we're going to go on to number 10, and number 10 is Supergirl issue number 29. The rest of the comics this week really weren't bad. They were all pretty good comics. This makes lower on the list just because it just felt a little, in a way, generic. You have a Supergirl, Kara, who's become Red Lantern, and then she winds up going against Siobhan Smythe, I think is her name. She becomes this crazy villain creature, and I think she's like a banshee or something like that. I don't even remember her actual name in the book, and she has to, uh, go against this creature. So they're both kind of fighting over the silver banshee, and she becomes this. And it's basically best friends that fight against each other, and to try to get Kara out of Earth, to get out of the way. It was an okay issue. The artwork is pretty good in here. I just found it a little generic. You find out that Lobo, of course, is not dead in here, and there's this ploy to get her out, and then we come across this villain here at the end, where I was like, okay, this is interesting. That has to do with some other world. And then now it's going to continue, I think, with the Red Lantern. So the reason why I'm reading this is because of the whole Red Lantern aspect of everything. I want to see how the two books cross over, how everything looks, things like that. So I thought this was okay. It wasn't the best book, but it was average. I give it a 3 out of 5. So with that being said, we're going to move on to number 9. And number 9 is Nova Unchained. Great cover. Love the cover here. Just a knockoff off of Superman Unchained's cover. This is issue number 15. I'm not very fond of this particular story arc that has to do with Beta Ray Bill. And it's not that I'm not a fan of it. I just think it's kind of just a complete filler story arc. I feel like the artwork was an improvement compared to last issue. The penciler this time is David Baldwin. I think that's how you say his name. And the art was a much improved, than the last issue. So it made the issue more enjoyable to read in that aspect. But the actual issue where it had to do with a telepathic dog that talks to Sam, and the main plot between the villain, which his name is was it Scorn? I think it is Scarn, to go to teleport into this weird place to go get what's it called, these weapons or whatnot, and the battles that Sam Alexander does battle against these random like guys in armor was kind of weak. And I felt like since we haven't seen the Earth side of Sam Alexander, they kind of just said, okay, well, we haven't seen that in a couple issues, and him being on Earth is really important in this issue. So let's force it real quick, just so people don't start questioning it. And that's what I felt in this particular issue. It's like, when he had a chance, he's like, oh, I'm going to run home real quick and, take care of my responsibilities, which is at school, and then I'm going to zip away again and go back into space real quick. And I didn't like how it was just forced. I like when the issue has its own, some of it's on Earth and then the rest of it is in space. Here it was in space. Let's go to Earth real quick for 2 pages, and then let's go back to space as we see our villain that has the huge-ass weapons that's going to plan and conquer the world. So, again, kind of generic, kind of cheesy in a way. Not my favorite story arc right now from Nova. No way am I going to drop it. It wasn't horrible, but it was generic in a way, and I'm giving this one 3 out of 5, too. So, now we go on to number 8. And number 8 is Superior Foes of Spider-Man. If you've been reading this series, it's complete filler. There's nothing that really goes on. However, it's a hilarious story. The artwork in the first page is quite interesting, but the book opens up and it goes, who are the superior foes of Spider-Man? I feel like this was a good jumping on point if you never read this series, because it gives you all the characters' names in the opening pages, tells you who they are, a little bit, their names and who they are a little bit. And it's cool because it even says there's called recap art, which, in a more serious book, I think this art fits perfect. I think this was beautiful artwork. But this book isn't that type of book. It's a very humorous type of issue. So then, or series. So once, the story gets going, it goes back into that original artwork. This issue had to do a lot with Hercules and how each particular representative of the Sinister Six/5 or 4 give their little story of, their run-in with, certain people and how it all comes back to Hercules. And Overdrive is the one that really has the issue with him. Always gotta love the humor in this issue, in this series. When it comes to our characters, the dialogue is great, and each particular character, represented a couple page story of each, and they all had their own artist and things like that here. This was a great page with the Beetle in here, the new Beetle. I thought she was drawn wonderfully, especially with Daredevil that was involved in this particular issue too. So yeah, there were some great moments in this, really funny stuff in here. And if you're not a if you haven't read Superior Foes of Spider-Man, I suggest you pick it up if you want a great laugh. Spider-Man makes an appearance. Here he is. Very rarely do you ever see him in the book. If not, maybe you saw him once. So cool stuff. Really enjoyed this series. Enjoyed this book for the humor that it's in. And it's funny because, Hercules does make that appearance after they're dogging him this whole issue. So this was good. And, 3.5 out of 5 stars. So moving on, we're going to go on to, I think we are on number 7. And number 7 is, what is it? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 10, Issue number 1. Now, I never read Buffy the Vampire Slayer before, and we're doing this challenge on Comic Frontline called the Buffy Challenge. And I introduced the series by reviewing season 1, episode 1, and I'm going to be reviewing this comic book of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, part 1 of season 10. And in brief, I thought this was a pretty good reintroduction to a lot of these characters if you're not familiar with the characters in the series. The artwork is a little cartoony, however, it was solid. We get to see Buffy and Willow and a lot of the supporting cast here fighting these zompires. They're like zombie vampire type of weird creatures, and the vampires are teaming up with Buffy and a couple of the other characters in here to try to stop these creatures. So it was cool because at the end of the issue, if you're not familiar, Giles makes his appearance. He comes back, and but he comes back as a young version of himself, trying to help Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then you wind up coming across to Faith as well. So from Angel and Faith. So she makes her appearance in the book as well. Yeah, as a new reader to the series, I thought it was done pretty well. Wasn't the most intriguing story I have ever read in my life. However, it was good. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to continue to read it and see where it goes. So same thing. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so we just keep trucking along around here, and now we're going to move on to number 6, and number 6 is Grimm Fairy Tales Wonderland, issue number 21. Now, I'm jumping back on this series. I haven't read it in a while, but it seemed like a pretty good jumping on point here. Cool cover, like the cover here. This is Callie, which is the main character, I'm pretty sure, and she's searching for her daughter Violet, who is actually stuck in Wonderland. You also get to learn about this other girl that's in here, and her name is Hazel, but you find out that she's slowly going mad in a particular issue. There's these voices talking to her. She remembers these images of her dad. She's a performer, and she sees Alice's all stuck in the actual actual issue while she's performing. So she's slowly losing it. And also in the issue, you get to see Callie go into Wonderland because she wants to search for her daughter. And it's really cool art here. A couple of splash pages, 2-page spreads, which is really cool to see of her going from Earth Realm to Wonderland Realm. Going through the portal or whatnot. So interesting stuff. She, as many times as Callie's been in Wonderland, she just can't figure out how the world works, and she's come across these different entities, and she doesn't know what to deal with them. And by the time you get to the end of this issue, we see that this girl Hazel, she is just really going mad. She starts falling to pieces, and she winds up becoming what I'm assuming is the Mad Alice of Wonderland. So how it all turns out, I'm not sure, but it seemed like a pretty good jumping on point for readers if you want to jump on this right now. There's going to be an anniversary issue of this on issue number 25. Big deal. I think it's had to do with the Age of Darkness. So yeah, this was a good read. I enjoyed it. If you've never read Wonderland, I can see yourself being a little bit lost here. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So moving on, we're going to go on to our top 5. Number 5 comes at Miss Marvel, issue number 2. Yeah, Miss Marvel was pretty good. I like this series. It's a very solid series. The artwork's just so weird for me. I mean, it's its own entity, in its way. It's very distinctive, type of art. But in this issue, you find out that, what is her name again? I can never remember the chick's name. I can't remember the girl's name. Camilla, there it is. You finding out that she's like an inhuman. She's a shapeshifter. She can change any way she wants to. Uh, the thing is, in this issue, what made it really good was that she doesn't know how to control her powers. She's lost. She's confused. She doesn't know what to do. The Tarragon Mist is what changed her, obviously. And, she finds herself trying to rescue her friend because they're partying, her friend Zoe. And the funny thing is the only thing she could come up with was this big, gigantic hand, like Mr. Fantastic. So she winds up growing this hand, and it's like, and she winds up scooping up her friend Zoe here, like scoops up the dirt and everything, and she lives, and she comes across, family issues because she snuck out at night and her family's disappointed, and I found it really cool because she's just a confused girl. If she didn't have any problems before fitting in, she's got more problems now fitting in, and now she has to learn how to deal with these powers. And she figures that, maybe I was put on this earth or given these powers for good and to do something about them. I like the dialogue. I love, the emotion that this character brings to the table, and I find myself really liking this comic as it progresses. Just the artwork is weird, and I just find it like it's funny how the only thing she can do right now is this, which is so funny. But it was a solid book, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it a lot. So moving on, we're going to go on to number 4. Number 4 was another Zenescope book, and this was Robin Hood Legend, written by Patrick Shand, and another solid series. This is volume 3 of Robin Hood, and this time we get to see Robin, who's actually, her name is Robin Loxley, and she's actually back at Earth, and she's doing the things that she always does. She takes from the rich, gives to the poor, people who need money, and she takes some for herself. She's like that vigilante type of character. In the issue, you get to see some unlikely people that come through this through the mist realm from where she was before, and she comes across the guy. His name is I think it's Guy of Gisborne, which was a huge enemy of this guy right here, which was the sheriff of Nottingham. But he's come along with her dead boyfriend that thought was killed, which is this guy right here, and his name was oh my god, I can't remember the guy's name either. Will Scarlet, that's what it was, Will Scarlet, and he winds up coming through with Marianne as well. And they have to go back to Mist because they have to fight this sheriff of Nottingham. Patrick Shand writes a great story here. Robin is a great character. I always suggest that if you want to get to know Robin more, check out that first volume that Patrick Shand actually wrote. It gives you everything it is, a great origin tale to the character, and it's going to be interesting to see, what Robin has to do now to stop the sheriff of Nottingham, because, she's being pitted against, of being the evil one now, since she's been away from Mist. So great stuff here. Can't wait to look forward to it. There's a little picture of issue number 2 that's coming out shortly, and at the end you get to see him going back to the portal. So there you have it. So there it is. There's Robin Hood Legend, issue number 1. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 as well. And that was number 4. All right, so now we're going to move on to number 3. Top 3. And number 3 is Superior Spider-Man Annual, issue number 2. You know what? I really like this story, or the stories that were in this particular issue, because it gets you away from the actual event a little bit, even though it's tied with the event. It gets you away from Superior, and it gets you away from the Green Goblin. It takes you a little bit deeper, and it had to do with Ben Ulrich and his nephew, and how Ben actually is not giving up on his nephew whatsoever. He's going to try to help his nephew at all costs, because his nephew is Phil. Ulrich, and you know, he plays as the new Hobgoblin, or the Green Goblin's lackey here. And we can see that, you know, Ben is going through all lengths to try to save his nephew. Really love the dialogue in this particular issue. Basically, how he says, you know, you can't begin to mourn someone until someone has actually died. And he says that type of dialogue in this particular issue when he finds out that his nephew has physically lost it, and he wants to be with the Green Goblin. Some great paneling, great artwork in this particular issue, and it had to do with some battle scenes when you get to see the face of Phil, you know, on how he has just been consumed by, you know, being the Hobgoblin and being evil. So great stuff there. And then in the next story, you had to do with Carly and Faith. You got to see how Faith did battle against Carly, and she finds out that it's her partner that is this goblin menace, or this type of goblin. This story it was kind of short, but it had great action. I love the artwork in this particular issue. And it just gave a little bit of a different aspect of things besides Superior or whatnot. So really enjoyed this particular issue overall. And I think I gave this one, in my in-depth review, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5, but not 100% sure. But really good stuff. So next we're going to go, and we're going to go on, and we're going to move on to number 2. And number 2 is Daredevil issue number 1. The only thing that just drives me crazy about this is this just ended, and we get a new number 1 to start a new chapter for Daredevil and Matt Murdock and Foggy and, you know, Kirsten McDuffie and everything else. But now we make it $3.99, and that just ticks me off. And that's the reason why, for some reason, this is get number 1 for me. However, the story is really good. You know, it reintroduces Matt Murdock in a way as he's in a forensics lab, you know, trying to, you know, find out what's going on with this particular crime about this girl that was being kidnapped. You know, again, great artwork here. Just love it. Just love the bottom, the paneling here, how everything was worded. Great stuff. Here's another great page here too. Again, the book is phenomenal when it comes to stuff like this. But you see Daredevil, Matt, he's just trying to rescue this girl, and he finds out that she's ticking, and she's basically his ticking time bomb. And being that he's in Los Angeles, he can't navigate right. He's not familiar with the surroundings as he was in New York, because he spent pretty much his whole life in New York, and he has trouble trying to rescue this little girl. You know, that was the main objective here. Kirsten McDuffie acts as his eyes and ears out there, which I thought was really neat. It's like she's his partner, you know, and just navigating and whatnot. And the suspense that this issue brought while you're reading it to save this little girl, for Matt to get this girl to the hospital before basically they can blow her up and blow up other people that have this big crowd, was crazy. And in the end, I loved it when this new attorney at law thing came around. In the end, they do save the little girl, and you see his new office, and it says Kirsten McDuffie and Matt Murdock, really small attorneys at law, which is really neat. But at the end of the issue, you look at this, and you're like, you know, the girl asked, you had a different partner at work in New York, and Matt is like, Foggy, and you see an urn and pictures surrounded by it, and you're kind of like, what, you know? And and it says his name was Foggy Nelson, and then here it just says was, and he's like, was? So what is that all about? Not sure there, and he's like in this hidden room, so I don't know, but really good issue. Really enjoyed the dialogue, story, the action. Excuse me. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So what got number 1 comic book of the week? Well, everybody, it was Harley Quinn issue number 4. This book just made me laugh my ass off. There was so much stuff here that Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti put in this book that just drove me wild. Love seeing this issue. Just loved seeing Harley Quinn going back to work. You know how she can't stand putting on all this makeup, and you know she talks to the patient that has this Alzheimer's disease that she's not aware of, and she says her family sits there and just ignores her. You know, her name is Mrs. Rubenstein, and she sits there and says, "Oh, they just ignore me. They only come and see me in what was it, in Christmas and my birthday, and I'm just not happy with them." So Harley gets all pissed off. She takes it upon herself to go to these people's house and cause them absolute hell. I mean, chaos, because they feel that she's not spending any time with her family. She comes driving through with this bulldozer, tortures the freaking husband because he's a train enthusiast. She pretends she's Godzilla and smashes the train, destroys the kids' video games. She puts them in the trunk and stuff, and it was just so hysterical. And then there's this Star Wars reference where this another bounty hunter is coming after her, and the guy looks like Greedo from Star Wars. Exact colors and things like that was hysterical. And you know, and it comes face to face when it comes to the table thing. I just thought it was awesome. You know, and then she makes her appearance with the roller girls real quick, or the derby girls, and you know she had to take care of business real quick there while the family's still in the trunk of the car. And as she finally remembers, she puts him at the edge of a freaking dock at the end, and they sit there, and he's beating her, and the guy's like, you know, he's like, "What do you guys say that you don't take care of your mother and you don't visit your mother?" And as she rips out the sock out of the guy's hand, the father's like, "She has Alzheimer's, you clown!" And she's just like, "Oh, I guess I didn't read the file." I thought that was hysterical, and that's, you know, in the issue, it's just funny what you see what happens with the family and everything. I thought it was great, and then at the end, you get a little introduction of what the next mission has in store, and it has to do with this other old guy that used to be this superhero that drives this freaking motor cart, and he comes in and he says hello to Harley Quinn, and he's like, "Shalom!" I thought it was great. I love the issue. I loved it. I thought it was hysterical. You know, I am a little skeptical about what's going to happen in the next story arc, or the story going forward, but for whatever intents and purposes, this issue was a 5 out of 5 for me. I just laughed the whole entire time. It was a great issue, and this is a fun Harley book. This was a lot better than last month's. So yeah, so there you have it, guys. There is the countdown this week. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and as always, guys, leave your comments below what your favorite comic book of the week was, what your worst comic book of the week was. And guys, until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. And guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.